So München, I just want to say, for anyone that has come to see me play live before, thank you very much for coming again.
This tour is different almost in every single way from the previous tours we've done, you know, very much so different from what we did as the Divide tour. So we have an audience in a 360 degrees. That throws up challenges in lots of ways. From a production manager's point of view, it's a huge challenge to work in 360 degrees. You don't have anywhere backstage to hide anything. You know, be very, very careful how you load things in and load things out. From an audio point of view, it changes everything about the way you work. I used to work very much with a very clear left and right PA system, and now with the challenge of the 360 degrees, there is no obvious left or right, and the reflections that you get from the PA are coming from all over the place, from behind you, in front of you now, which it never used to be, and all around you. So it has, yeah, massive new challenges in just doing the surround sound or the surround 360 concert. But we've got new challenges as well. You know, Ed then, of course, needs to be able to move around to entertain his crowd. It's not just Ed sort of standing in one place facing forward. He needs to get around to his crowds. There's now multiple loop pedals around the stage that he has to command. The same problem happens for me with there'll be multiple microphone positions that I have to deal with and matrix through the console. And now this time we have a band as well. So that has brought some fun challenges with it too.
Well, as you said, more immersive approach is definitely one thing. I think the other thing was maximising the visibility of a one-man act, essentially, to as many people as possible. And the best way to do that is in the round, and obviously with as many screens that we've got, it's in a position where the ability to produce this show in such a way that it is visible to people everywhere within the stadium and have as many people there is certainly one of the major factors, and also the visual impact of such a big, striking design that is something that is not seen before, something that is obviously very, very different and very big, was the main draw card, I think, for Marc creating something that was visually new and different, and also something that would stand out and be very significant and unique for Ed.
So we're on site at the Mathematics tour for Ed Sheeran. So we're in the round now, so we're not doing the traditional end-on show. So we've got 6 masts that hold the entire show up. In the middle we've got the halo, which is predominantly the main video surface for the show, and within the halo we've got a whole lot of Ayrton Perseos that provide a bit of lighting above stage, and they're on kinesis hoists that are on chandeliers with Skeptron strips as well, which we run video content through as well. So we're at one of the masts here. The masts obviously act as the structure that holds up all of the lights for the show. We've got the Ayrton Domino LT, and we've got the GLP XDC strobes. Inside the mast we've also got Astera AX9 architectural lights that do a bit of lighting on the internal structure, and each of the masts acts as a stage position for the band who play for some of the set of the show. On the stage we've also got some floor lights. We've got the Ayrton Perseos, and we've also got some Astera AX2 50s as footlights for the band members. On the main stage we've got Ayrton Cobras, the laser source fixtures around the front edge of the stage. Underneath the edge of the halo there we've got the Ayrton Perseos, the Perseo spots, and on the chandeliers, which you can see hanging in the middle, we've got more Ayrton Perseo spots with Skeptron video strips, which we run video content through. And we've also got some of the GLP XDCs up on the top there as well to provide a bit of colour onto the stage.
The stage obviously is to draw the focus of the show into the centre point, which is where Ed Ed's domain is on that stage, and out on the masts is where we have the main infrastructure and lights, video screens and all that is out on the masts, with obviously above him we've got the massive halo. So we're using a whole host of Ayrton Domino LTs out on the masts, on all 6 masts, as well as the GLP XDCs. So we're using the full mode for those. Because they're such a tight beam, they're able to create quite an architectural look in the way in which we focus them on the mast, so you can create some beamy kind of looks from them, but they're predominantly utilised in a way to try and light the space and the audience, because they're that tight beam that you can use to really fill the audience, and the audience in some regard need to become that traditional backdrop or canvas that you'd normally get on an end-on show where you'd have a screen behind the artist. We don't have that luxury, so we're needing to try and light the audience so that there's some definition and depth behind Ed from the cameras when they capture him. So we're using as well as using the Domino LTs, obviously, as effects out and lighting the audience, but we're also using the XDCs to sort of get some light out there. And obviously they've got the strobe part, which we can use and utilise for hits, stabs and fizzles and all those little little pops that you have in the songs and all the accents that you have, so they're quite handy to have those. And we've got them in full mode, so we're using all the pixels individually, and we can create a whole host of different effects which have been programmed by Alex, our programmer, who did a fantastic job of utilising the full scope of the XDC and all the pixels that we've got. We've also got the Ayrton Perseos, which we use predominantly overstage, both underneath the halo, the ring of the halo, but also we've got chandeliers that are moving on individual hoists. We're running the show on Grand MA3, in Grand MA3 mode. Controlling lighting, I've got 2 Grand MA3 full sizes, and the video operator has 2 MA3 light consoles. So he's triggering the disguise machines and having a few other extra accents that he can use to hit. So we decided very early on that we were going to take the plunge and run with the version 3 software. It is definitely coming along, and it's got some fantastic features, being able to using the grid layouts and things like that. It's a time saver, no doubt. The new phases, again, being able to easily create effects quite simply using steps and the step bars is very, very, very handy. So we've stepped away from having a traditional follow spot system. Previously we had some Lancelot 4K follow spots, but now we're going for a much cleaner look. So you don't need, we don't have people climbing up masts anymore. You don't have these big, heavy, bulky fixtures anymore. You've now got the same fixture as the rest of the rig, and we're able to control them and have them remotely operated out the back. In some instances it can be hundreds of meters away. We can have the operators away and operating the follow spot system using Follow Me, and we have one target that follows Ed the entire time, and attached to that one target we have one fixture from each mast. So he's lit from all 6 masts, so he's always lit at all times for people both in the audience, but also he's lit for camera. So he's captured by the IMAG, because it's important that in such a big show with people so far away that he is both lit visually and visible in the room, but also we need to make sure that he is lit for camera so that we can put his image up onto the IMAG screens and into the content, and make sure that he is always visible, because people come and see that one man, and it's imperative that we have always got him lit.
There are more problems and more difficulties with being in the round. When you think of tuning a PA system, when people tune a PA system, you generally tune to a central point. So you kind of go, there's the center, everything times and focuses from that point. The same happens in the round, but you've got so many more speakers and so many more sources all focusing on that point. And that point being the middle spot, which has a microphone and an acoustic guitar, means that even more than it ever did before, every bit of it wants to feed back and cause you trouble. So it's been a lot harder to do in the round than it was end on. My experience with the Panther thus far have been I've been fantastic. I've been very, very, very pleased with what it can produce, how even the coverage is, how far it can throw. People have asked me to compare it to speaker systems I've used in the past, and I cannot make that comparison. I've never done a tour in the round like this. The circumstances are so unique that it would be unfair to compare products. But absolutely, the Panther was a box that was kind of designed to fit the criteria that we have on this tour. We needed a lightweight box. The whole cable net system is designed to only take a minimum amount of weight, and so we needed a lightweight speaker box. We needed it all to be powered. We wanted the minimum amount of cable infrastructure, so we ended up with a digital to the box. So there are an awful lot of the elements of Panther that fitted directly into what we needed for this show, and there currently isn't another speaker that would fit with this show.
From a practical standpoint, Panther was really the only speaker that we could use to do the job for the inner arrays. One of the big motivators for approaching John Meyer and the Meyer team early on was that the weight loading in the center of the stage, along with the video screen there, was a really difficult engineering challenge. All of that is suspended on steel cables, and it has to be counterbalanced by ballast that is positioned elsewhere in the structure, or else it will fall down. We're using a Panther line array system being implemented really throughout the structure in combination with some 1100 LFC subwoofers to provide the low frequency content, and 22 Leopard small line array speakers that are being used as individual boxes for front fill around the front of the stage. To create sort of consistent coverage for all of the crowd, the broad concept is that we've got an inner ring of 6 Panther arrays which cover the stadium floor. They hang around directly above the edge of the stage and sort of point at 60-degree intervals to each other. There's 3 1100 LFC sub-bass speakers directly below each array, each Panther array. They're phase aligned together, so that on the floor you've got full range content from the Panther and the low frequency content as one full frequency element. Moving away from the inner ring of Panther, we move out 30 meters and you come to all of the masts of the structure, and on every mast we've then got more hangs of Panther and 1100 flown subs. The idea being that as you come as an audience member off the floor, you transition out of the inner ring of speakers and into the outer ring of speakers, which then take the coverage from the edge of the floor up through the stands and up into the higher tiers of every venue. There's a slight difference in that the outer arrays are 8 hangs of Panther to create enough horizontal coverage to cover all 360 degrees of the stadium. And as I've mentioned, each mast has 1100 flown subs, which are phase aligned to the Panther.
On these troughs that run around the stage here, we've got a whole lot of Astera AX250s. We've got some on the inner side here and some on the outer that basically provide a bit of footlight for Ed on the revolve of the stage. This revolve goes the full perimeter of the circular stage, and it provides a bit of eye candy for the audience members up in the stands. It also provides us the ability to light Ed from the feet and sort of eliminate any of the spill of light that we get from the floor video screen. We've got all of Ed's lifts over here. These lifts go up and provide a riser for Ed on stage, but they also come down and provide an exit to understage for Ed so he can get off stage. And they also provide a means of Trev, the guitar tech, being able to get up onto stage.
I'm David White. I work for Ed Sheeran as his looper and RF tech. So basically, from last time, we've kept everything pretty much the same in terms of the way the system works, but we've now got multiple loop pedals on stage. So in terms of the actual brains of the operation, we're still running a redundant system that works together, but then is also wirelessly transmitted around the stage to 4 revolving pedals and 1 central pedal. So we've got backup redundancies there and redundancies on the pedals, and it allows Ed to be able to move around the stage and just be a bit more free for a 360 environment. So he's got 5 loop pedals on stage, which are all synced up together. So what happens on one is instantly transmitted across to the other, of which they are 8-channel looper. So you can select a channel, record, overdub. You can then also mute each channel. Along with each loop pedal round, you also have a tuner system as well, so he can also tune guitars and mute guitars. And yeah, there's 5 of those stations on stage. The show is completely out there in the open. Is the fact that everything on stage is IP rated, so fully waterproof, so that all the pedals can get as wet as they like. And we've made he's got a small keyboard to play some samples. So we've got a little rain cover we've made for that. In terms of Ableton, under here, the looper is actually a custom written bit of software that sits and hosted inside Ableton. We've got 2 sessions of that running at the same time, so everything that happens on one is duplicated on the other. So should a computer fail, which computers do, we can instantly switch over, and as far as Ed and the audience are concerned, nothing's gone wrong, and then we can reboot the system and switch back to a machine if we need to. So Ed's using Sennheiser 6000 series. We use the 6000 handhelds with a 435 capsule for his vocals, and then a 945 capsule for his loop mic, because he tends to do beatboxing and stuff, so to have an extra grill really helps with the close contact on that. And then we have the new 6000 micro belt packs, which we've adapted for his guitars, so they're smaller and lightweight and they fit on the straps easier, and we've got 5 of those in circulation for this show to be able to do all of his guitars and guitar changes and backups, of course.
Been mixing with the SD7 for quite a few years now, using it to a bit more of its potential. Now that we have the band, I still do the monitoring from front of house, but we've also now integrated the clang system, and we don't use that so much for the immersive audio system. We use it more for the monitoring controller that they have, so that the band could have individual controls. That was the initial concept. Very quickly it turned out the band were very happy after rehearsals and those controllers weren't required, but we did start to work with the spatial elements of clang that has now actually become quite important to the band and Ed in terms of how they hear everything in their in-ears. There's very little else that's changed for me. I've stuck very much with all the technologies that I've enjoyed in the past. I don't use any plugins, I don't use any plugins at all. I use what is on the console, and to a great extent. I use a lot of dynamic EQ, and I use a lot of compression. Yes, I use gates an awful lot. As before, with Ed's looping, it was if everything goes exactly as it should, there really isn't much to change or adapt. But things do change because Ed will smack the guitar a little harder, or he'll just start playing a note before changing the loop, so a gate needs to get introduced or a compressor needs to get introduced to prevent that effect, because it happens when he's running around and performing whilst playing that those inconsistencies crop up. So I'm able to use onboard toys to be able to solve that. On the outboard side, I still carry 2 Bricasti reverbs, one for his voice, one for his guitar. A lot of these stadiums, they've really not been very effective at all. The stadium has its own natural reverb or room sound that you can't possibly hear what the Bricastis are doing, but every now and then we have the joys of a greenfield site or something like that where we can really enjoy those reverbs. I have an Eventide H3000, actually I don't anymore, I have an Eclipse, a smaller version, that is used purely for thickening vocals. So when Ed's building loops, when the backing singers of the band are singing, it just thickens things up to sort of sound like they're a fuller choir. I have Waves Max bass, which I use over the left and right mix. I use that for two things. It's a lovely sounding unit for left and right just to pass through. But also I do use the function where I can increase the intensity of a frequency. So I pick somewhere between 40 and 50 hertz, and I'm able to increase the intensity of that. That means I can, when it comes to Ed hitting the guitar and playing that way, I can use that to dial in the low end for those songs. And when we have gentle acoustic songs, I can dial that part of the low end back out again. So it's almost like having control of the sub bass speakers, but just on a unit in front of the house. And really, those are my only toys. Coming back and doing shows has been absolutely amazing. It's absolutely phenomenal. That sound of the crowd when the lights go down and the show starts is something that is just, it's an unbeatable feeling when you're part of a production, that feeling of being involved. And funnily enough, it was one of the things I'd almost forgotten about. I wanted to come back to work, I wanted to be with people, I wanted to do the things I love doing. I hadn't really thought too much about the crowd reaction until that first day. It's incredibly emotional when that you suddenly have that back and the adrenaline starts pumping again. So it's been amazing to get back. It's also been very difficult to get back. You know, with the practicalities of building the show, lack of supply, lack of people, you know, lack of skilled people, the need to train new people, find new people has been very difficult. And we've discovered it's been very hard for the people coming back on the road as well. Whilst the initial elation of being out on the tour was evident, it didn't take long for people to start struggling and suffering because they spent so long at home with families and loved ones that it suddenly becomes a huge transition for people that they hadn't really expected. So it has been, there's a kind of a bittersweet. It's been absolutely amazing to be back, but it has been quite a challenge at the same time.